I'm not afraid of threats from someone like you. A housewife with no job and no parents. You can't do anything with a pile of junk. Because that's all it is now, just trash. I get where you're coming from. I'm leaving this house. So you'll be the one without a roof over your head. Good luck with that. This is the perfect opportunity for Larry to leave too. Let's team up, clean up, and get rid of the mess. They went straight to Larry's room and told him to pack his things. I had planned to leave on my own, but I never expected Larry would be kicked out as well. I'm Lauren, 29, a stay-at-home wife. I married David, 33, thinking he was mature and level-headed, especially since he often spoke about his mother. I thought he was the kind of man who truly valued family. But once we tied the knot, I saw a different side of him. On our wedding day, my mother-in-law was incredibly kind to me, and I believed we would have a happy life together. After the ceremony, David suggested we move in with his mother, saying he wanted to take care of her since his father had passed away a few years earlier. I trusted my new mother-in-law, so I agreed, but everything shifted once we settled in. I began hearing commands like, "Hurry up, Lauren, bring me some tea, and clean the bathroom faster." My mother-in-law started barking orders at me, which felt like an attempt to intimidate me, or maybe it was just her age. She would yell at me from across the house, demanding chores. But the most shocking discovery came one morning when I found a man I didn't recognize in the kitchen. I froze, unsure of who he was. He noticed me and said, "I'm Larry, David's younger brother." I had no idea David had a brother, much less one who lived with us. I went to my mother-in-law to ask about him. She replied nonchalantly, "Oh, you mean Larry? Don't worry about him. He's like a hermit." Her dismissive words were jarring. How could she refer to her own son as a ghost? She seemed satisfied with only David's company and described Larry as useless. Someone who only left the house to shop and otherwise stayed inside. It broke my heart. I couldn't believe how cold and detached she had become since the wedding. I tried to ask David about his brother when he came home, hoping for some understanding, but he brushed me off, saying, "Just ignore him. He won't bother you." I was disheartened by how casually he spoke about his own brother, as if Larry's existence didn't matter at all. Later that day, after finishing my chores, I was on my way upstairs when I ran into Larry in the hallway. "You're married to my brother, right?" Larry asked. "Yeah, why?" I replied. "I'm sorry, but you should consider leaving," he said unexpectedly. "Excuse me?" I was confused. "I'm sorry, but I think you should get a divorce," Larry stated bluntly. I was taken aback. What was going on? I had just gotten married, and now Larry was telling me to leave my husband? "It's none of your business. I can handle it," I retorted, trying to regain my composure. "Sorry, I'm being too forward," Larry apologized, bowing his head. His words seemed sincere, but I couldn't tell if he was being polite or genuinely worried about me. He excused himself and went back to his room, leaving me in a daze. Despite what my husband and mother-in-law had said about Larry being a strange recluse, I began to see him as someone who deserved respect. The next morning, as I prepared breakfast, Larry came down to get a drink. "Good morning, Larry. Would you like to join us for breakfast?" I asked. "Good morning, Lauren. Thanks, but I'll pass," Larry replied, glancing at his mother. "I'm not eating with him," she yelled at me, pointing her finger. Larry quickly said, "It's fine," and returned to his room. Later, my mother-in-law scolded me. "Just do your housework. Don't do anything extra. Understood?" Her tone was harsh, and I felt like I had no room to breathe. I had expected more kindness from my new family, but instead, I was treated like an outsider. David's behavior was no better. He shouted when he saw the curry I'd made for dinner. "Curry again? You should have told me earlier. I had this for lunch. Why didn't you ask if I wanted something else?" I didn't respond, too stunned by the outburst. "You're not even apologizing. Your job is to take care of the house, so get it right," he yelled, showing no remorse. I stayed silent, feeling humiliated. David didn't love me. He just wanted someone to do the housework. As I listened to him complain, I realized I had been used. They didn't care about me at all. Watching them relax in the living room, I quietly went upstairs, tears streaming down my face. Then, I felt a hand on my shoulder, offering me a handkerchief. "I still think you should leave," came Larry's voice. I wiped my eyes, embarrassed. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take your handkerchief. Larry smiled softly. No, I wanted you to use it, he said gently. I overheard what my brother and mother said. They're awful. Curious, I asked him to elaborate. Larry shared that David had promised to marry someone else before me, but his mother's behavior and David's treatment had driven her away just before the wedding. Hearing Larry's story brought some clarity. It wasn't just me, David and his mother had driven away another woman before. I felt trapped, unable to trust anyone in the house. But what could I do? I was a housewife with no resources. I couldn't just pack up and leave. I had no choice but to cry. Larry offered a suggestion. Let's meet somewhere else, maybe a coffee shop, so we can talk freely. He handed me his contact details and returned to his room. I was determined to leave, but I knew the battle would be tough. The next day, I told my mother-in-law I was heading to the city office and then to the supermarket. She grumbled about dinner, warning me not to be late. I agreed to her demands, but my mind was already set on meeting Larry. At the coffee shop, I confided in Larry about my situation. My parents had passed away. I had given up my rental house, and I was starting fresh with nothing. It's hard to leave when I'm tied down with household chores from morning till night, I explained. Larry asked, Lauren, can you draw? Huh? What do you mean? I asked, puzzled. Can you draw? He repeated. Yeah, I went to art school, I replied, unsure where this was going. That's perfect, Larry said excitedly. There's a manga artist looking for an assistant. The job can be done remotely. But I don't have a computer, I replied, feeling uncertain. Don't worry, Larry said. We'll figure something out. Larry offered. I can let you use my computer since I'm not currently using it. Are you sure? Thank you. But I'm curious, why do you have an extra computer? What kind of work do you do? I asked, intrigued. That's kind of you to ask. You don't think I'm just hiding away, do you? He replied with a chuckle. No, not at all. You're always polite and seem well put together. Do you work from home? I responded. Yes, I do. I'm an engineer, Larry said. An engineer? I didn't know that. I thought you ran your own business, I said, surprised. I used to work for a company, but I moved on to start my own venture. It suits me better. We also have a few designers on our team, and we run everything remotely as a small operation, he explained. Ah, that makes sense now. I wondered why you're always home. But your mom and David said you were just loafing around. Have you told them what you really do? I asked. I don't see any reason to explain myself to them, Larry replied. Fair enough, but if you're so capable, why stay at that house? I pressed. For the first time, Larry shared his thoughts. Let's focus on you instead. I want to introduce you to a manga artist, he said. He immediately made a phone call, and soon I had an interview scheduled for Wednesday. My mother-in-law would be busy with lessons and outings, so that time was perfect for the remote interview. I must have made a good impression because I got hired on the spot. They said they'd send the official paperwork to Larry's address. Given my circumstances, the next step was finding me a place to stay. I have a friend in real estate who can help you find a good deal, Larry mentioned. Who's this guy? He seems to know people, I commented. Our search for a place was quick, and we signed a lease for a place that worked well for me. Just as things were starting to fall into place, I had a confrontation with my husband. Where's dinner? My husband asked, waking me up from sleep. He seemed a bit tipsy, probably just home from drinking. Dinner? It's midnight. You said you weren't hungry because you were going out for drinks, I replied. Don't talk back. The king is home, and you don't even get up to welcome me? And now you're saying you didn't make dinner? You're a worthless wife, he yelled. His words infuriated me. Do you even understand how much I've been doing for you? Working with your mother? How can you act like you're better than me? I shot back. Because you're my wife. A wife should support her husband, and your job is to keep the house in order. If you can't do that, don't argue with me. A wife who can't manage the house is useless, he retorted. Just then, the door opened, and my mother-in-law walked out awkwardly. You're just like trash. Larry's trash too. And this place is a dump. My husband sneered. with my mother-in-law agreeing. Yes, let's get rid of this oversized trash, he added. What did you just say? I demanded. He pulled a piece of paper from a drawer. These are divorce papers. You're no longer useful to me. I'm getting a new wife, one who can actually serve me. Get out of my house, you disgrace. A wife is nothing but a servant. You shouldn't talk like that. One day, you might regret it, I replied calmly. What are you going to do about it? I'm not scared of threats from a jobless housewife with no family, he scoffed. He and my mother-in-law laughed together. Exactly. You're useless. You can't do anything because you're just trash. Now I see how you really feel. I'm leaving this house, I said, signing the divorce papers. I packed my things, placing the divorce papers into my bag. My husband and mother-in-law watched with smug expressions. Now you're homeless. What are you going to do? We don't care anymore. Good luck, homeless lady. And as for Larry, it's a good chance for him to leave too, my husband said. Yeah, once he's gone, we can make this place better, my mother-in-law added, already planning their next move. They went to Larry's room and told him to pack up. I hadn't expected them to throw Larry out too, and I regretted letting my emotions get the best of me during the argument with my husband. I'm sorry, Larry, this is my fault, I said. No, it's my fault. I've realized I can't live with them anymore, and I have other interests. Maybe it's good we had this falling out. Larry smiled. He didn't seem upset, which put my mind at ease. 5 days later, on Wednesday, while my mother-in-law was out, Larry and I hired a moving company and moved out. After finishing our move, my mother-in-law called my new place. Don't worry, we're already gone, I assured her. Did Larry go with you? She asked. Yes, we moved out together. I'm relieved. I won't have to see you two anymore, she said before hanging up, clearly pleased. What she didn't know was that Larry and I had been planning our revenge. With Larry's help, I moved out and began my new life just in time. My divorce settlement was substantial. Larry had recorded my husband and mother-in-law's insulting remarks, which helped me claim a significant amount of money. Larry's lawyer friend also helped me secure alimony. My husband was stunned but ultimately agreed to the settlement. I was grateful to Larry for his support and didn't want to dwell on it any longer. A few days later, I received several calls from my ex-mother-in-law. I realized I had forgotten to block her number and reluctantly answered. Lauren, where are you? She demanded. I'm not telling you. We're strangers now, I replied firmly. Please, don't say that, she pleaded. I'm calling because, where is Larry? Huh? Why are you asking about Larry? I responded. I've been trying to reach him, but I can't get in touch, she explained. That's too bad. Maybe he doesn't want to talk to you anymore, I teased, enjoying the moment. Then someone else grabbed the phone. Stop playing games. You moved out together. You must know where he is, they insisted. You're all ridiculous, I muttered. I knew exactly where Larry had gone, but I had no intention of revealing that to them. I truly don't know. You'll have to find him on your own, I said, keeping my answer vague. Where are you now, though? You have no home, no job, no place to go. If you're desperate enough, maybe I'll let you come back, but only if you work as my maid, she taunted. I'm not coming back. I've got a job and a place to stay. I'm moving forward with my life, I responded confidently. That's a lie, she shouted in disbelief. My ex-husband was stunned, clearly taken aback by how quickly I'd managed to get everything together. I didn't feel the need to explain myself further. Don't ever contact me again. If you show up or call me, I'll involve the authorities, I said firmly, ending the call. I blocked both my ex-husband's and my ex-mother-in-law's numbers immediately. They seemed to panic, realizing something important. They had believed my father-in-law had left them a sizable inheritance, but in reality, Larry had been secretly sending money to his mother's account all this time. My mother-in-law had always thought Larry was lazy and unemployed, so when the monthly transfers stopped after he was kicked out, she was shocked. That was when they finally understood who had been supporting them financially. But by then, it was too late. Larry had already severed ties with his mother and brother. Without Larry's contributions, my ex-husband couldn't afford alimony, and my ex-mother-in-law found herself in financial hardship. They both got exactly what they deserved, and I felt no sympathy for them. As for Larry, he had bought himself a lovely apartment in New York and was living comfortably. How did he manage to do that? Why had he sent money to his parents all these years? It all came down to a promise he made to his father. Unlike his mother, Larry's father had been deeply loving and caring. Despite the harsh treatment from his mother and brother, Larry had always honored his father's wishes. His father had once told him, "Even if things aren't smooth between you and your mother and brother, they're still family to me. After I'm gone, I want you to look after them." Larry, staying true to his father's memory, quietly continued to send them money for years, even though they mistreated him. It was heartbreaking that they had pushed him out without ever understanding the sacrifices he made. After we moved out, I met Larry again. He explained his loyalty to his father's wishes, and I completely understood. He had been my savior when I was betrayed by my husband, and I'll always hold him in high regard. I wish him nothing but happiness. 2 years later, Larry proposed to me. He asked me to marry him, but that's a different story for another time. It's a sad truth how someone's character can change so drastically after marriage. It's like a scam, isn't it? Fortunately, my brother-in-law turned out to be a reliable person, and today, I'm happily married to him. After everything I've been through, I've found peace and contentment. I hope this happiness continues. Thank you for listening to my story until the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. I'll see you in the next video.